Welcome to another episode of Tube Test. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Natalie.
And today we get to talk about one of those stories that you always hear about, but you never get to participate in. It's almost like Rudolph, and he goes off and he never gets to play the reindeer games. But finally, a story, a barn find,
Oh my gosh.
has come to us.
Yes.
So rewind.
All right.
First, how far do we go back? Do I take them to the recent, like when I got the phone call, or do I take them to? I think the phone call, because
Okay.
I think that starts the story a little bit. But let's try that. Here we go. So I get a phone call about, is it 3 months ago?
Oh, 6 months ago.
6 months ago. So I got you're better at the whole time and the calendar thing. So about 6 months ago, we're in the studio working on a project that I don't really know what we're doing. I know we're recording music, but I don't know what the point, like in other words, I don't know what the out point is going to be, if that makes sense. Meaning it was kind of a secret project.
Okay.
And it was with Alicia Keys, so we're miking up, band members and putting on labs on them and the whole thing. I get a phone call. And this guy, and again, we're in, the control room, we're sitting there, and I get this phone call, and this guy calls me up and says, "You tested a microphone for me about 12 years ago."
Which is crazy, because think about how many microphones we've tested.
And
So that doesn't ring any bells off the...
100% doesn't.
offhand right there.
Okay. And I go, okay, and I'm listening. And he goes, "Well, you said if I ever decide to sell it, then you want to buy it." And I'm like, okay, what kind of microphone is it? So it's a Neumann M269 microphone.
Yep, it is.
But here's the backstory. His father had bought it new from Neumann, Germany, never ever used it. And apparently I had tested it because I had a power supply to a KM254 and, I had a power supply, I had a cable and the whole thing. So I tested it. The point is, I was the only person that tested it 11 years ago.
That's insane.
Brand new microphone.
Brand
okay?
new. From
So
Germany.
Yeah. So I said to him, I said, "Well, send me the pictures. Okay. And, yeah, let's, why would you say no to that? Right. So I get off the phone and I get the pictures. My jaw drops.
Not even a scratch. Not even a fingerprint.
Anyways, I had tested this microphone and it sounded incredible. Hey, Diana agrees. And, I just was jaw dropped. I turned to my buddy that was in the studio with me and I said, "Ryan, this just happened." And he's like, "Well, yeah, you're buying it. You're going to make that happen." So he put it together. Well, as things went on, I got super busy and I couldn't go out because it was in Florida. I couldn't go out to Florida to get this microphone.
It's not something you ship.
Yeah, you don't ship that. So I sent money and I kept sending money each month because I'm like, I'm coming. I even bought, I think, 2 plane tickets. Okay.
Yeah.
Like non-refundable plane tickets. And yes, they were inexpensive. It was Allegiant. You're right. I should fly another airline. And I did eventually. And it was great. It was awesome. So I finally go out there. But before I went and I picked up the microphone, I just want you to know that I put 2 and 2 together. I figured out what had happened. And it was a situation that he had called me and asked me to test this microphone. And he explained to me the story. I tested the microphone. I had wrote on a piece of paper that said, "If you ever sell this microphone, please contact me." And sure enough, of course, my email's different and the whole thing. But no, he contacted me, and that was...
Because that piece of paper was still with it.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I took a picture of the piece of paper. I took a picture of, him and the microphone and the story. And his dad is phenomenal. He's passed away now, but he was a phenomenal engineer in the studio. And also, ironically, he was into production sound and film and television.
Just like this guy.
Yeah, and it was great. It was almost better to meet him, and I'm glad that we didn't ship it. I wouldn't have shipped it anyways. But the point is to sit down and listen to him talk about his dad, and also look at how much he is a connoisseur of great sound. I mean, he had just to die for sound, like speakers and Macintosh amplifiers and all kinds of other things that I'm just like going, wow. So it's one of these things that you really, you never hear, but it happens.
It happened. It happened to us.
And so without further ado.
I will say this. So when we tested it, the first time I sang through it, I cried. I couldn't believe, number one, the story. Number two, the condition, but just the sound. I cried. I'm apparently that person now. I cry.
I'm still in shock. It's completely not a scratch on it. And this is all the original. This isn't like, that you put, the parts and you get refurbished, stuff from Neumann and so forth. This is like the real deal. It just is absolutely incredible.
I mean, what more to say?
Yeah, and of course, the first thing you do is you open it up.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, it's the real deal. Thank you. And it's almost like, this is where it gets really tricky, Natalie, is you've got this museum microphone, like this museum piece. And it's an insane, and hopefully it's going in focus and the whole deal. How do you just tap on it? There you go. Yeah, I think. It's an insane.
We'll try to cover up your face with it.
Oh.
There we go. Maybe that'll focus it.
Yeah. But it's an insane museum piece, and you struggle with, oh my gosh, I don't want to use it, but you have to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You 100% have to. And what was kind of mind blowing buying the microphone, and it wasn't obscene. Like he wanted to sell it to me, which was awesome. And his question when I went to pick it up is, are you going to sell it? And I'm like, no. I go, how can you come across something like this and then sell it? You come across something like this is a once in a lifetime brand new microphone from the 1960s. You don't sell something like this.
No.
You use it, you play it, you record with it, you find every single person that you can and go, hey, let's make music. Let's do stuff.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got back, I've been extremely motivated and kind of putting everything aside that I can. And we started working on a bunch of songs, working on a bunch of music, singing with it. And it really is just beyond a joy. I've sang through vintage microphones, and we've sang through all kinds of microphones.
Every kind.
But when you have something that was brand new, because I've never sang through a brand new vintage microphone. I mean, you just don't,
Right.
You just don't come across it. But when you have something that's how they made it. That's how it sounds. It was never manipulated or changed, or even a different tube or the capsule's been reskinned. You get, that's the benchmark.
Right.
And I was trying to describe, I mean, you heard it immediately, but I was trying to describe to you that when you've got a microphone at this caliber that sounds this good, it takes EQ unbelievably, but you don't need EQ on it, and you're maybe it's kind of like just tapping it into, you're giving a little bit of a nudge with EQ, or even compression, because it already has a little bit of a natural compression from the tube and how all the circuits, the circuitry works. And it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So I can't wait for us to actually get you some music. Well, that's the next thing is we're going to test it and put it on, tube tests, but just incredible. I mean, it's one of those stories you always hear that everybody else tells, and then you become, part of it. And, any other words to say?
No, other than it sounds incredible, and we're so thankful and grateful to have this in our arsenal now. So.
And it was so funny because I was telling Dan Franklin, we were recording some guitar, and I said, Dan, I need to get a shock mount. We're not going to record electric with it, or I probably wouldn't record electric with it anyways.
Yeah.
But I said, instead of recording acoustic, let's do electric. I'll just use SM7 or SM57. And I said, but I don't even have a shock mount. Because the mount that I have one, but it was real janky or whatever, and I've kind of put it together. But this is a little bit of a commercial because I reached out to our friends Aaron Hausholter over at Recording Services and Supply. I'll put the little link, and he's hooked me up. So there's basically on the way is a shock mount, so we'll be able to test it and give you some. Even though I already tested it with my janky microphone shock mount. I'm embarrassed. And here's one of the things.
Anybody who saw my stories, my Instagram stories the other day was probably like, it's all like rusted out.
Well, no, and that's fine. Like some of the, again, with vintage gear, it's like there's some really good things about using, vintage gear, but some of the stuff like a vintage tire, for example, and this is a conversation that I've had with so many people where, look, you have certain parts in a vintage microphone that you need to replace. Okay. And it's not a matter of it goes bad. It's just over time, like for example, rubber, okay, rubber hardens. And some of the shock mounts that we have and we use, they can last the test of time, and they have. But there's certain things, the way that they're designed, and I could take pictures of it. But my shock mount, it's all kind of rusty, and I got to clean it up. But even if I did, just the way that when they put it together and they merge the two pieces of metal together, over time, it's
going to separate.
It pops off.
Yeah.
Not always, but that's why you have a lot of these broken shock mounts in like the graveyard of studios and so forth. But it's the same thing with these rubber inside the microphone. There you have your capsule saddle that is has rubber on it. But you never hear of guys swapping out that capsule saddle. The rubber after time hardens. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's like little things like this where, maintenance is really important, but I didn't have, one of these shock mounts. So it's almost better to buy a brand new one.
Yeah.
A brand new one from Neumann, and you have that peace of mind and the whole deal. But I love vintage everything. I have a tendency to saying, hey, replace the stuff like it's like you're driving on bald tires. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, check out Aaron Hausholter at Recording Services and Supply, and a shout out to Joey M. We got to see Joey up in Northern California, hung out and did a quick tube test with him, and he loves that Myberg microphone, man.
Yeah,
and
he does.
I will say it sounds pretty awesome, and it's built pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. So way to go, Joey. And he's got kind of that same thing. It's like, he'll buy a bunch of these modern microphones, and he'll just want them to be the quality that some of these guys aren't striving for, with the mesh being kind of a little funky or a little off. It's like, but Neumann stuff for the most part is very precise. Mm-hmm. and we've seen that over the years, but I love that he has that attitude, because like I got that attitude. So way to go, Joey. So next time on Tube Test, we're going to test out this M269 microphone, and hopefully you guys will love it like we do, because we truly love it.
But no crying, okay?
No crying. No crying. And yeah, let us know if you want us to test out a microphone or go hunt one down. I'm all about, driving across country and flying across the world just to hear an amazing microphone. And there are some pretty awesome ones that we have not tested out yet. So we got to do it.
We'll do it.
So next time on Tube Test. See you guys later.
Bye-bye.